Hi, everyone. Oh, zoom in time.
Oh.
I am, there we go, right into it, Bo. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Internet, for showing up today. I am one of your lovely hosts, Rex, aka Chief Vibes Officer. I heard that that's like a real job now out there in the world of Silicon Valley somewhere. So decided to, lean in as they do. And not joined today by Rebecca. She is unfortunately under the weather. So send her all the good vibes and the healthy to-dos and chicken noodle soup recipes out there. But today, luckily, I am joined by Bo, none other than Bo Daly himself. There we go. And I guess real quick, introduce yourself for 30 seconds, then we'll go into the wonderful bits that are owned.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks, Ryan, for having me on the show.
Of course.
Yeah, excited to be here. My name's Bo Daly. I'm the founder and chief exec at Bazooka Tango. Spent 25 years in the games industry across everything from console to MMO. Really just trying to build great games for players and hopefully kind of push the boundaries of how gamers think of gaming along the way. So excited to be on the journey that we're on here.
Nice. Well, excited to have you. Okay, so as everyone knows, we have this wonderful sponsor that's sitting kind of above my head, Owned, and because all of my bits are, it's a saga. Last time we created a character that we thought best embodied myself on Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if you're also a nerd in the Dungeons and Dragons side, but one of the things that we came across was the fact that my warlock patron, which imbues me with the magical powers that I have to cast all the spells that I want to do, was going to be owned. And what I did is I took the time to build out the warlock patron for Owned, the Sovereign of Discoverability. The Sovereign of Discoverability is a powerful, enigmatic entity that thrives in the boundless digital realms of Web3. It constantly gathers and assimilates information from across the countless game worlds and dimensions, offering it to those who seek its patronage in exchange for their loyalty and service. The Sovereign's ultimate goal? Connect gamers across the multiverse, facilitating the discovery and exploration of new realms and experiences. So, as we all know, Owned is a game discoverability platform. So, hey, there you go. Why did you just call him a nerd? Well, Yellow Panther, we're all nerds here. We all play games, but some of us are just cooler nerds than the others.
I co-sign that.
Yeah,
I co-sign the nerd part for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so there's a few things that you get as a warlock under the Sovereign of Discoverability. The first is at first level, you learn Identify and also Unseen Servant, the Unseen Servant working in the background to serve up delicious and fun new Web3 games for you to play. The next thing you learn at third level is Clairvoyance. So, you can learn about what's out there in the interwebs and stuff. There's a lot of, I spent way too much time digging into this. Long and short of it is you can find this now on dnd.com, dndbeyond.com, which is not a sponsor for the show, but dndbeyond.com. You can find the Sovereign of Discoverability is now a warlock patron that you can find if you want to dive into Owned. Hopefully, Owned, you appreciate how much work I put into this Dungeons and Dragons patron for you. Thank you. That is the sponsor. That is the bit. We'll close it out there.
Oh, that's good.
Tell us about what you're building, what's going on in your world. Let's introduce everyone to the game.
Yeah. So Bazooka Tango, we're building a game called Shardbound. Shardbound is it's something that sounds like it's going to be right up your alley. Actually, I find that this sort of like the parallels between being into D&D, being into collectible card gaming, and its tactics gaming are all kind of similar hobbies. A lot of Thursday night game nights. In my youth, kind of doing all those things. So this is really think of Shardbound as sort of like the two pieces that you might be missing in your life right now. It's a sort of a beautiful blend of a collectible card game with like board-based strategy. So like like tactics, right? So it's deck building, it's tempo and trying to get out your cards. But once they're on the board, they are fully realized animated units that move around, have terrain advantage, line of sight, like all the cool stuff, from your old Warhammer 40K addiction, like all that stuff come together, kind of blended, and with a player-driven economy that, we think in the long term is going to give players the opportunity to really build and customize decks for exactly their play style, right? And of what the game design space can do, because that's as the deep nerds, right? Like, that's, it's fun. It's fun to play with your starter deck, but it's a lot more fun to customize.
Yeah, once you get into the metas and learning out what the rush decks or the control decks or what have you. So exactly. It's actually, you bring up a really good point, which combines a lot of very important historical things that I've played in my youths, back in my youths. Which is Final Fantasy Tactics, which is a huge. I love that game. I was a big Hearthstone player as well for a little while, so like that tackles on top. But then I play Dungeons. I'm like sitting there with the battle map, measuring out Warhammer 40K. Like I was in the back rooms at game board shops doing those things. So this is really, really cool. It's all wrapped up in one nice, neat little package. So I appreciate that. Let's actually take a step back. How did we get to this point where you guys are releasing Shardbound sometime this year? How do we get all of the past that's leading up to this point right here? I'm curious. It's a big question, I know.
Well, in the beginning,
and when Adam met Eve, or whatever you choose to believe, right?
Yeah, no, it's a kind of a long and funny story. I'll try to like keep it to the good bits here, but we've spent my co-founder and we've spent 10 years plus building sort of core games, gamers games on sort of frontier tech, right? So in my last company, my co-founder, we started a company called Super Evil Megacorp. We made the world's first mobile MOBA, esport, right? The game called Vainglory. We launched off the WWDC stage in 2014. It was like Tim Cook, Bono, and my co-founder and Stefan like hanging out on stage doing things.
Wow.
Like really kind of like mind-bending stuff. But it was at a time when the sort of industry pundits were like, well, mobile is a platform for 3-minute sessions, right? And we're sitting here being like, no, we could build a AAA 20-minute game session, deep, a game that you have to put the thing on the table and play with 2 fingers because it's so intense, right? You can't have a conversation while playing this game. And really, I think in some ways sort of like catalyzed this shift, 10 years on now, like all the big Fortnite, PUBG Mobile, right? They're like all these like great competitive gamers games are on the platform, and no one thinks twice about it anymore. So we spun out a couple of years ago, and really was sort of a mission to try to figure out what the next frontier was going to be. And that's both from a sort of like game genre kind of spaces, because right, like we built MOBA, and then MOBA sort of, it's still around, but it's, kind of gave some ground to Battle Royale, and that's been around for a while too now. So it's like, okay, well, what's the next cool thing from a genre perspective? What's the next place from a tech perspective where gamers don't really expect to see that kind of quality that we, spent our careers building? And so, all the pieces kind of fell together in like a really kismet way for us to be able to. So Shardbound was actually when we were doing our Super Evil journey, Shardbound, there was a company called Spirit Walk Games, friends of ours who we worked with at an MMO company like previously.
Really?
Who they were doing their startup thing, we were doing our startup thing, and we were like at TwitchCon together, and like at the same time, and just kind of keeping track of each other's progress. And they had this great game, Shardbound, and startups are hard, man. Like making games is hard. Like all this stuff is really hard. So we found ourselves in a position to be able to sort of like become stewards and shepherds for that title, and like really give it the proper launch that it sort of always deserved. Now that was built in 2015.
It was like 2016 right? Like, to 2017. I saw like some articles around Shardbound.
So it was not a Web3 game, to start with, but what it was like a beautiful universe with like a million possibilities, right? Like, I mean, I want to build on this IP for 50 years and build MOBAs and battle royales and whatever we can come up with as sort of like that next future genre. But at its core, this is a awesome tactics CCG game that is like, it's just the crack to me as a Final Fantasy Tactics, Vandal Hearts, right? Like there are all these sort of like that era like produced a lot of great sort of tactics video games. So Heroes of Might and Magic, I've spent way too many long nights doing the hex grid tactics there. So we might see some of those design elements. If I get my way, but yeah, like so effectively we found our way into the Shardbound IP. Really, again, had been in love with it for a long time. and jumped at the opportunity to kind of give this thing new life. And so, yeah, so we're really right now finishing unfinished business.
Okay. One overarching thing that I've been seeing that's kind of interesting about some of what I see as like the best games or projects or things being built in like the Web3 ecosystem right now, which is like a huge focus on IP. Which you guys decided to go with the Shardbound. Like you found this like world that you can build, and you mentioned like building like MOBAs and building like this world and building all these additional things around this IP. I guess when you have worked previously or like other games or other projects or what have you, has it always been a focus on IP, or is this just like you're like now working on what you could maybe consider like your opus, right, or something of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, IP is really tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, going back a little bit deeper in the backstory. So before I founded Super Evil, I was at a company called Gazillion, and I was like a free-to-play MMO company. Originally, it was John Romero of Doom fame doing a MMO startup. So I was kind of an engineer there in the early days, and then ended up kind of riding a very interesting path into business development, corporate development, licensing, international, like a lot of like very different stuff. But it took me across like 7 different game projects, ranging from, big, like we had a Marvel master license to do all Marvel MMOs for a decade or something like that. We were working with, I mean, I'm trying to think of, what are the things that were announced and weren't announced, but like, DreamWorks and, just like all these like big IPs, but then also a bunch of like internal, like in-house IPs, and they all sort of in some ways meet the same meet a lot of the same challenges. I think licensed IP is great if you can, it's like a great accelerant for discovery, right? So maybe owned is, these are sort of like, and discovery is a huge problem, and it's only gotten to be a bigger problem since Apple made some policy changes around, like on mobile, on PC. It's never been like, it never had quite the infrastructure that it did on mobile anyway for paid UA. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there, in that you are building on someone's IP. There are limits to what you can do with it. But if you have a game loop that is fun and that is, I mean, I hate to use the word like profitable, but like it does have to be, because like if you scale something that is that is losing money, you're going to lose money very, very quickly. If you scale something that is like doing okay, then you can really kind of build a business there. And so but then in-house IP like suffers from a different set of problems, which is that, I mean, I was on an MMO that rebooted its art 7 times with like 7 different art directors, and like no one wants to do what the previous guy was doing, and the look and feel changes, and you just spend so much time and money carrying a team while you're kind of, what's the right look and feel here. So we feel really excited about the Shardbound IP from the sense that it is like demonstrably really good, right?
It is like, I fell in love with all the images. It made my Twitter social cards that I was putting together look amazing, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I've been blown away by all the videos and everything that I've seen. So
and I mean the folks that did this work originally, have gone on to great things. They're I think all went to Dauntless, and so like great pedigree. They built great stuff before this game. They've gone on to do other things, and so we're just super excited to be able to kind of continue to develop this and sort of push it forward. It's demonstrably good, and it gives us so much breadth, right? It is a world that feels lived in. It's like it's got that sort of like WoW kind of quality to it, that sort of like Blizzard-esque quality, where it's like, hey, there's art in this world, right? Like this culture has existed for 1,000 years, and you can feel that. Right. Which is I think that gives players something to dig into, and then you can write that lore, you can write that backstory, and take players on narrative journeys, on PvP journeys, on like there's just so much you can do. So we're excited.
You were looking for the next place that you could upgrade what was being built with the new technology, and you like kind of leaned into Web3. So I'm guessing I'm wondering why the choice of Web3? Like AI is charging us down the pike right now. Maybe you're going to be thinking about that as well. But like what drew you to Web3 in general to like build within this ecosystem in some capacity?
I mean, I'll never say never on AI. Like that's
Okay.
also super interesting. I don't have a lot
Also,
of
please and thank you, robot overlords. In case you're listening to this 100 years from now, we love you.
In fact,
Everything you
I
do is
can't
great.
wait for the AI to take over all the game development so that we can just enjoy, the brilliant masterpieces that they create for us. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like I get really, it's sort of less Web3, I guess. Like, I mean, my favorite class in college was discrete mathematics, and I love combinatorics
Hey.
and encryption and all. It's like that is very nerdily interesting to me. But
Yeah.
I don't write that code. That code's that's Immutable is handling a lot of that stuff for us, and we're
There you
very
go.
thankful to have people who've done this a bunch of times. So you don't have to trust me with your smart contract. Like I'm not the guy to write this for you.
Yeah.
Protect your value forever. But there are like a couple of experiences I think that in my life like have sort of like led me to just be like really excited about permanence in a way, right? Like I mean, I've got a stack of laptops back here with old Diablo 2 save games because one day I want to play that Shakadin again, and I like right, like it's gonna happen. When my kid is 20 years from now. Or something.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing is, you have a 9-month-old. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. I'm basically trying to build a small gaming guild within my own household, and so I just like you, I have all these old CDs from like Diablo 2 and like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. So like at one day maybe I can play with them once they get into the age of playing. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, those gonna be magic.
I know.
Yeah, and so right, so like, but there's got to be a better way because like,
right.
I'm not sure the Diablo 2 servers are even gonna be on. Right, like,
yeah.
And my IPX land setup skills have atrophied in the last 20 years. So, but there is a world that I think we'll see pretty soon where I mean, I've sunset games, right? And it sucks, right? Like, because you're like, hey, I want to give this to the community, but there's no structure, right? And like, I mean, the database is the most expensive thing that we operate, like when we're running game servers. And so, that's going to be the first thing that gets shut off, and there goes all your stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
And so, thinking about blockchain as, permanence, thinking about blockchain as, ideally kind of the sort of economy around it, the token economy around it. I do see a world 10 years from now where, I can, maybe it's not Diablo, maybe Diablo 2 gets a retrofit, but like where, I could go in, drop a Diablo 2 token into a wallet somewhere, spin up a server instance. All my stuff is in my wallet on blockchain.
That'd be
I don't
cool.
have to, right? Like there's just like cool things that, downfield there.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I bet I can build something that has, that lasts and is like a durable foundation, a place that core gamers can come in, participate in this tactics game, and 20 years from now still be in that ecosystem in a way that makes sense. And so, I start thinking more about, metaverse, interconnected experiences. I think that the reason that we're still playing World of Warcraft 20 years on is because that was the first metaverse, right? It was a fishing game or a crafting game, or to some people, it was a PvP, game to others, questing, right? Like all these different experiences that were intermediated, or like that created economic interdependence, and that economic interdependence gave people an excuse to interact socially, right? And that social fabric that you create then carries relationship, people getting married in your game, right? Like for a long time. And that's the kind of thing that I want to build, right? Even, we spent 10 years, I said 10 years, 7 MMOs, like none of those did wow levels, anything. But, and I don't think you can build on that scale just by being like, hey, I'm going to ship the WoW killer. Like we spent decades trying to do that, right? And it's just not going to happen. It's too expensive. You can't market everything to everyone. Like the world's changed. But I do think that you can build a bunch of great experiences for players, give them reason to socially interact, by whether it's competitive play tournaments, esports type stuff, whether it's content creation for one another, like and all of this stuff is better structured and has better incentive alignment when you use kind of Web3 primitives. So that's kind of the design space that I get really excited about as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's really cool. By the way, hi Coltrane Choo Choo. Thanks for popping in. I am very excited about a lot of this, and it seems what's nice and what is exciting to me as someone who's like keeping tabs on this industry in general is you're right. Like there was a lot of the first look at like NFT games for a lot of people was very like Ponzi-nomic, or like it was being developed by people who wouldn't be able to make a Web 2 game successful. But now we're starting to see a bit of talent like yourself and other studios that have come in who have built successful IP or games or game loops, even just like something so simple as just making a good game loop for some people in Web 2 and coming over into Web 3. So I'm very excited about what's coming down the pike, one of which is Shardbound. So I guess set up the world, maybe build the lore for me. We can dive it now that we've pontificated about the future of player ownership a little bit, which is always really fun for me. Talk to me a bit about the game. Maybe we could share, I don't know if you feel like sharing your screen, but look at some game demos or game stuff. I would love to dig into all
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
All right.
And I will say that this is this isn't, we've got lots of gameplay experiments like I alluded to. I'm not going to show that build. I'm going to show these sort of like classic build, but it'll give you a real good sense of how what the world is, how it works and everything. So
we're digging in. Let's look.
All right. So Shardbound is set in a sort of a very hopeful post-apocalypse, I guess is the way I'd sort of describe it. So the world that they inhabit was shattered some years ago, kind of exploded, sending pieces of the planet kind of off into the distance.
My favorite world building is some cataclysmic event happened and we're jumping in to try and fix the pieces. This is perfect.
Yeah, and so this is like hundreds of years later, these shards are coming back down, right? Like gravity is finally kind of reclaiming them, and so you're finding these shard falls. And in the intervening time, you've got these different factions. So you've got sort of like the red deck is like sort of the technology faction, and the blue is sort of like time mastery. They can teleportation and kind of cool stuff like that, like magic sort of users. You get sort of your naturalist green faction, and your kind of death and decay flood kind of purple faction, and so basically all these different, they've kind of developed their own culture in the meantime, and now as these shards are falling back down to into range here, they're finding that they're going, and you have to kind of go and claim vaults that are on these things, and this is kind of how you're progressing. So each one of these shards ends up being sort of a quest hub, and it gives players kind of an excuse to come fight over the resources on these pieces as they're coming back down. And this is effectively sort of in kind of Web 2 land, how you go about building your sort of like initial collection of cards.
Got it.
So
this is like PvE level stuff. Like I'm coming here, single player, jumping in and playing some games. Is that right?
It's so it is fundamentally it's a PvP game.
Yeah. Once you get past this kind of building.
Yeah. So you know what, I might so yeah, quick overview. There's like when you
fancy.
Yeah, all right. A little bit of placeholder art here, but when you start the game, once you get through the tutorial, you'll be able to sort of come in and look at your sort of your guild house, your shop, your whatever. There's like deep sort of deck building with lots of different units across the various different factions.
Wow.
And a lot of stuff to collect. I've got actually looks like a pretty, not a whole lot of content on this account.
No, it's all right. But, he's still a beginner at his own game. All right, it's all right.
No.
Sometimes
deeply called out. I'll pull up my dev account and you'll see.
Yeah. Next, turn on God mode. Whenever you see Rex log in, you turn on God mode and then just go play me. And then I'll never win. It's all right. I understand how it goes.
But yeah, so there's you've kind of got your own house there, or you got your sort of guild thing, and then there are these shards that are going to spawn, and these are sort of the quest hubs, right? So each one of these is going to have a vault on it with different seals that kind of have different win conditions, and like, so here, this is a pretty simple one. I play one game with any army and it'll break the seal. But I've got to break all the seals in order to be able to claim this. And this is happening in real time. So other people are potentially seeing the vault and also want to kind of unlock this. And there's some things that we want to do with streamers and content creators to sort of like create kind of in-world events around this stuff. So that's kind of the sort of like PvP piece. I'm gonna run through I think the last tutorial here, because this will give you sort of like a bit of a walkthrough of
I would love to, because I want to see, like, I'd love to see the map, like the way that this is rolling out. This is amazing.
Great, thanks. This is we got some great looking maps and I'll
this looks amazing.
Some different
I was
ones,
just like, I don't know. I do a lot of like early alpha builds and stuff like that, and like this one looks beautiful. You guys put a lot of time and effort into getting to an alpha stage. I love the idea too. Like some people's versions of alphas are just so different, and this one is this is like a beta, maybe even almost main full launch in comparison to some of the alphas that I've seen. So this is great.
Yeah. Okay. So first unit comes out. I had 1 mana. So I played a 1 mana card. It's down on the board here. It's got Summoning Sickness, so can't do anything just yet. But my commander Petra here, she's ranged unit.
Nice.
So we've got Oathkeeper Juro here, who's the commander on the other side of the board.
Okay.
My win condition, I think, here is probably to defeat him. And then he's going to be pulling out cards as well. And
so that's cool. So it's like you're like I'm thinking I'm combining Hearthstone with Final Fantasy Tactics right now, but your like hero is down on the board, playable, can attack. When you play a card, they have like the one turn where you have to sleep before you can play, unless they have some sort of like charge ability.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then and you're slowly, like, once you play a card, I was it's not an auto battler. It seems like you can actually control each of the characters once they're down. Amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, that is really cool. Because that's one of the things. Like, don't get me wrong, auto battlers are. I feel like they have their place. I personally, and this is just me, I'm not an auto battler fan. Like, I want to control the characters because I've played so much Final Fantasy Tactics. It's like, no, I want to use this spell. Move over here. Get out of the way. So that's what I love to do. And so it's exciting to see that. And so this is really, really cool because you're slowly building, as opposed to having a full set chessboard set up ready to go. You're like slowly building your chessboard at the same time. So you're reacting and putting units down and reinforcements. Oh man, this is
exactly
really
right. It's the play and counterplay and this is a tutorial, so I imagine this will be pretty. It'll be a pretty straight line to kind of knock this Juro guy out. But you can imagine like over playing against a real opponent, like who's been investing into their deck and really thinking about how to get cards out. How the flow of battle just changes back and forth, right? And fundamentally, we want to be building a game that is very spectatable because. First of all, because we like watching games like this, but also just like as the world changes, right? And platforms like Twitch are great for discovery, showing players what they can be getting before having to commit to a box sale, which I guess isn't a thing. All right, so I'm gonna play this Phalanx leader down. Adjacent allies are gonna get a +1 to attack.
Nice.
So stick that person there. Then I'm gonna move an ally adjacent to him. Get my +1.
All right, there you go. And then you get your ranged attack too, right?
I'm trying to make the most of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'll continue to poke at the. I was not careful with my clicking, and I probably should not have moved, but I don't think it's going to be too much trouble.
Yeah. Luckily, they take it easy on you in the tutorial. And
then I could have given myself a +3 as well. I'll save that for next turn.
Ooh, all right. So while they're going, so this, like, all of this is so far seems, and I think rightfully so, very Web 2. So at what point does this kind of future tech stuff, digital assets, because we're not allowed to say that dirty word NFTs anymore. When does that kind of the Web 3 element come into play either in the battles or just in the ecosystem in general?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a couple of pieces there. The sort of one kind of obvious case that we're like definitely talking about now is it is this sort of like deck building collection piece. Like right now, I'm playing through with kind of a pre-constructed pre-constructed deck. But we're looking for ways to kind of increase the types of decks that players can build and reward them for exploring and trying different things. And so, in a Web 2 version of this, you're going to hey, I really want a hungry Narbec, and I got to just keep opening loot boxes until I can find that unit, which, works, but isn't sort of the path to testing out a lot of different things and getting into the meta. We also do want to do things with, tournaments and in-game tournaments where, you can, maybe wager anti a unit or do some pretty spicy stuff there that again really hard to do in Web 2, particularly staying within the boundaries of the platform kind of rules for how they expect you to sort of play.
That sounds really, really cool. And so I'm actually curious, so this is a little just very personal curiosity, because one of the things that often comes into play, one of the things that people don't like in Web 2, which is the pay to win elements. But if you guys are, got an idea, I'm wondering how you're thinking about this, which is if you guys drop these NFT collection oriented cards, and some of the cards become incredibly sought after because they're in the meta right now, and people are willing to go on secondary markets, just the way you're saying, I need to have this for my deck, I need to complete it, and spend potential hundreds or thousands of dollars. How do you guys feel about this pay to win element, or how are you thinking the strategy about this in comparison to in Web 2? There can be an unlimited amount of these legendary cards essentially, because if people just open enough packs, the random loot chance drop at some point will happen. So how are you guys thinking about that? Are you guys, I don't know, I'll stop there.
I guess I would say in terms of the pay to win debate, right? Those are both kind of pay to win systems, right? You know what you're getting. And I think importantly, right? Let's say I spend, $20 and construct a deck that I like, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to play purple, and purple, I've never played purple before, but I wanted to experiment with that gameplay because I hear it's meta, and the streamer that I watch is doing that.
Doing it.
Right. If that doesn't work for me in Web 2, you've opened a whole bunch of loot boxes and you're kind of out of luck. You're not getting that money back. Here, I think of it as it's the reason that people still love GameStop, even though, right? Yes, they sell you stuff, but they also, it's kind of a fair exchange. So, if you don't like that deck, maybe you can get $400 for it because you rolled a, really great rare card, but, maybe you get $15 for it, or $10 for it. But, that's $10 that you get to try to play a green deck or do something different. So, I think the expectations are going to change a little bit on, what, do it, buddy. Kind of what players can expect to be durable, in games. And, there's so much lost value sort of now in, kind of anything that you play that, I think this is only better. It's only a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And I tend to agree with that kind of stuff. It's always nice hearing what, as opposed to me pontificating on the side and being game developers should do it this way. Let me tell you how to build a game. It's always nice to hear the ways that you guys are thinking about it. Cause I do agree. What I cannot do with how the stupid amount of money that I sunk into loot card packs at Hearthstone is get any of that money back in any sort of capacity, unless I suddenly became a really good Hearthstone player on Twitch, which I don't think that's happening anytime soon when I have 2 children and I have other responsibilities in life. So that's, I love that answer. And I think that that's a lot of people that have are naysaying in the to the NFTs within games and making that argument. I think that's a very valuable counter argument. Which thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
That's really, really good. So then, what are some of the what's the next? I know we just have we're about 15 minutes left on the hour. So what's the next? What's coming up? what's happening in Shardbound? You guys are, sounds like beta and then a full game launch by end of the year, which is I'm always interested at holding people to their dates and times because it's the internet and we're now immortalized. Victory, you did it! All right,
I did it.
Nice.
I did it.
Yeah.
I do not have to hang my head in shame here. Get out of this.
No, you're good.
Yeah. So, So right now, really again excited to start to build the community. So, would love to put in a shill for the Discord community.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. I will be sharing out the information for the Discord on Twitter because that's where it seems like I got a lot of the engagement. So we will drive people to jump into the Discord there. If we jump into the Discord there and you guys share your tags, I will make sure that you slide into my DMs in some capacity because we're doing some sort of special gift giveaway.
Giveaways, yeah. From what I know, the community team tells me that we've got a couple of things to give away. So head over to Discord and claim that. Pre-register for the game. Go to shardbound.com. Pre-register to stay sort of even more kind of up to date. I think those who pre-register get some cool stuff as well. And we are otherwise like just really kind of heads down trying to get, again, try a couple of different things on gameplay. We're going to be looking to bring people in from the community to kind of do some closed door alpha testing on this stuff under NDA probably, and then go a little bit further and, kind of proper closed beta, open beta this summer, I'll say. And then aiming to get the game out for kind of a full launch by the end of the year. So
nice.
A lot of things moving, but we're super excited to be this close, right? I mean, the game's already pretty good. It's missing a whole lot of art assets, and if you kind of can still see the sort of old Steam page, it's like super positive ratings, like 80% positive.
I know.
All the negative ratings are like, hey, there's placeholder art, and it doesn't seem like, well, we're fixing that. So like that's thing one is kind of finishing the sentence that they begin to speak for us at Spirit Walk, but and then really just trying to take it to the next level, right? Like trying to find new game modes within kind of this rule set, right? Trying to experiment with how deck building can be done a little bit differently, right? Maybe we have all the sort of classic decks are single color, so there are opportunities for multi-classing or
interesting.
And so we'll see. I don't want to promise anything that my game designers
they're probably sitting there furiously typing at each other in your Slack channel, like, why is he saying these things on the internet?
No, absolutely, with certainty. But it's no fun showing up if you're not going to get some little bit of tidbit. So
I know.
We'll I expect that again, like we are deep in experimentation on some of this stuff. So half of what we say here is never going to come out, but the game will come out, and and it'll be good, right? And
it looks amazing. I suggest everyone go check it out, especially if you're at all a gamer that's similar to the games that I grew up playing. So I fully recommend checking it out. I want to, if I'm asking you this live on air, but I would love to test out the game and give you some feedback. I'm happy to sign any sort of NDAs that you need me to, but we'll line that up after this.
I think your people are already in contact with my people, so we should be able to make
all right. But so just a couple quick questions, just more high level stuff. Like, one thing we always like to understand is like, what's your favorite game? Someone who's in games, who's built tons of games. What's your favorite game that you've played? Which is a big question, I know.
Yeah, it is, and there's so many different.
I know, it's like it's hard to choose. Yeah, it's hard to choose the favorite because I like my different first-person shooters versus a MOBA versus whatever. Like, right, all different vibes.
I'm gonna go with my like sort of classic answer, and this is because I'm a little bit of a I don't know, like an indie snob in some way, whatever, but Ico, if you ever played.
Oh, Ico, yes, huge fan. That Shadow of the Colossus. Oh, those two games are so good.
Like the level of sort of brilliant artistry that they were able to squeeze out of that like small bit of hardware.
I know,
and make you feel right, like make you like fall in love in a way, right? Like
there was 8 lines of dialogue in the entire game, and like I was like crying by the end. Like what?
So that's that's definitely one for the kids to go test out the old PS2 on.
It's a CD-ROM, but like I imagine blowing in the cartridge of the PS2 to get it all the dustiness out. That's awesome. And then one other thing is just like what excites you? What gets you out of bed in the morning right now? What's other than it sounds like a 9-month-old maybe crying? What excites you about life right now?
Oh man, that's a great question. I mean, definitely right. This first kid, so 9 months old. It's every day is a completely new journey, but you know,
man,
just getting to sort of like re-experience the world through her eyes is just magical, right? Like sometimes I just like put my face real close to her so I could see her hand playing with a toy in a way that like, oh yeah, like all of this is new. We've got a rabbit in our backyard somewhere, and you know, it's been running around, but she only just saw it for the first time, like processed that it was a thing. So that's like when you first became aware of animals, like that stuff is pretty great. And, you know, I hope that inspires me to find, you know, more kind of ways to sort of see the world with less cynical eyes again. Right.
Yeah.
It's been dark times for, you know, regardless of sort of like, like it's been dark times for a couple of years. So, you know, this really helps to kind of like salve all of that, all the chafing from you know,
from just the world. I mean, it's a really good point. Like I was like running late this morning. It's my son's 4th birthday. Shout out Oliver if you're watching this in the future, because I know mom's not going to let you on Twitch anytime soon. Happy birthday, bud. I was like getting him a present. I had the smallest one with me, and then like as we were like running up the stairs so I could like go make it to a work call, like there was like a lizard that like popped up over the step, and like my son was like, for the first time, I've never heard him say this word before, he was like, lizard, and I was like, what's happening? And it was like a very beautiful moment. And I just like, honestly, I was like 5 minutes late to my work call because I was just like, we're gonna sit here and watch this lizard for a minute. So like that's amazing to hear you say that, because I run into those things regularly right now, and so many like fly. I know you're a young gun out there. Like I know you're young. You don't have to worry about kids and responsibilities. You're just still living the life.
I think we lost the room here. Why are we talking about like old dad stuff?
I know. Yeah, but So it's I really appreciate that. Well, that's very cool. So I shared the link of Discord in the chat. I will also share it on Twitter. Where else can people find you? What should the things that you normally do at the ends of these things, so people like know what to do? You know, as I don't know, they're like, it's interview things. What should people be doing?
Yeah, no. So, you know, follow us on all the things. Go to shardbound.com, pre-register. Yes. There's links to all the socials. You know, follow the Twitter and the Discord, and
check out the videos. It looks lovely. Drop in the link.
Oh yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and just stay tuned for you know, more fun stuff in the community.
Yeah,
I think we've got a Pat Steffen bot that my community person set up so that you can virtually pat my co-founder on the head for doing all of the engineering work and not sleeping, which is you know, another way to kind of keep buoyant in these times for sure. It's a fun time over there. It's a real good bunch of folks, and so yeah, we're excited to be hanging out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. This will be really, really cool. I am. It hits all these genres: the lore, the deck building, the Final Fantasy tactics. It hits a lot of stuff. It hits a lot of marks. So I'm very excited to get my hands dirty. It has been fantastic. Bo, thanks again, and thank you, everyone. I love all of you out there on the internet, each individually and equally. Very unlike my children. So thank you all. Have a good night. I mean, good morning. What is this world? I'll talk to you soon.
Round.